You get sold a complex IUL policy. Is your IUL underperforming? The accumulated value is $123,000, but you don't have access to that money. You have access to about 90 of the $68,000. And my question is, what happened to $406,000? If you're really going to earn 6.32 and that's what's projected, you've lost $406,000 because that's not what's in the illustration. Hi everyone, Barry Brooksby here. Today I'm going to walk you through a full breakdown of indexed universal life insurance, IUL, and why it fails to deliver. There are a number of reasons for this, but I want to ask you a few questions. Did you get sold a complex IUL policy? Is your IUL underperforming? And are you frustrated with it? Now, some of these answers you may not know. If you have an IUL, I'm going to encourage you to look at the illustration and compare it with some of the things that we go through today. The first thing we're going to be talking about are surrender charges. 95+% of IULs out there have surrender charges. The reason for this is because an agent gets paid a higher commission if there are surrender charges. They simply mean you don't have access to all of your money. Some surrender charges can last 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. You can look at your own IUL illustration. If you don't have one, you can call your insurance company at their 800 number and request what's called an in-force illustration. The way I'm going to first explain surrender charges is using a real IUL example. This is one company. I've analyzed hundreds of IUL illustrations with multiple companies across the board. They're all relatively similar. And if you have one that you want me to analyze, you can email it to me and I'll go through it and do that analysis. This illustration is based on $140,000 a year premium. And where we see the surrender charges is in this column right here that says net surrender value. So you notice that the accumulated value is $123,000, but you don't have access to that money. You have access to about 90% of the $68,000. Less than half of your money is showing up in true cash value, what you have access to. This IUL has 10 years of surrender charges. So in year 10, you still see that the net surrender value does not equal the accumulated value. Finally, in year 11, it gets to 1.8 million, and both those numbers equalize. But for those 10 years, you were dealing with surrender charges. If you cancel the policy, you don't get the accumulated value back. You get the net surrender value. If you want to take a policy loan, you don't loan against the accumulated value, you loan against the net surrender value. Well, how does this compare with a properly structured whole life insurance policy? Here I have designed the same $140,000. Whole life insurance does not have surrender charges. So you'll see that the first year cash value is $110,996, not $68,000. So instead of being able to access only 50% of your money in the IUL, you have 80% of your premium going to cash value and no surrender charges. Now, this is a side note. You notice that the first year death benefit in the IUL is $2.6 million. That same $140,000 going into the high cash value policy gives you a death benefit of $3.2 million. So not only more cash in year one and no surrender charges, but you get a higher death benefit. The next problem that I want to show with IUL are the increasing insurance costs. In the 1980s, when IUL was introduced, it was built on the chassis or framework of annual renewable term insurance, ART. That means that as a person gets older, the cost of the term insurance goes up and you can't get away from it. That cost will continue to increase for your life insurance amount as you get older. The way we show this in the IUL would be in the guaranteed section. We're going to look at the guaranteed cash value. You see the $140,000 being funded for 10 years, and then year 11, There's no more premium going into the policy. The highest point of guaranteed cash value was in that 10th year of 996,000. They've put in 1.4. There's 996,000 of surrender value that's guaranteed. Well, what happens in year 11? 978,000 then reduces to 954, 929. Why does the cash value decrease? It's because the cost of insurance is going up. The best way for you to see in your own IUL the increasing insurance costs would be to look at the guaranteed values. If you're lucky enough, at the end of the illustration, you'll also see a cost breakdown. Not all IULs have the cost breakdown pages. If you do have the cost breakdown pages, look at those because they'll break out the cost of insurance, they'll break out the fees. You'll see generally those costs going up every year, therefore your cash value is going down. We don't want that to happen. In a properly structured whole life policy, the guaranteed cash value is always increasing. And the reason for that in whole life insurance is it wasn't built on annual renewable term insurance. It's level. It's a fixed cost. There are not increasing costs on a whole life death benefit. So you don't have to worry about your cash value eroding the older you get. It only goes up. With whole life insurance, you get a guaranteed interest rate and you earn a dividend. The whole life companies that I specifically work with have paid dividends for 120 years, 160 years, 175 years. These are mutual insurance companies that continue to pay us as policyholders dividends. We participate in their profits. This is the guaranteed cash value of the whole life policy. We see this column, total cash value, 108 guaranteed year one. Then in year 11, the premium is going to reduce from the 140,000 down to 35,000. Reducing down to only the 35,000, you see the cash value here grew that year by $67,000. In year 16, it grew by $72,000. And you don't ever see a reduction in guaranteed cash value. As we get to even in the later years, notice the guaranteed cash value continuing to grow. It does not decrease like we saw in the IUL. Why? Because there are no increasing costs with whole life insurance. The third problem we're going to talk about today with IUL is unrealistic returns, meaning the money is tied to the stock market, and the projections that are shown on an IUL are unrealistic. The way we see that in this IUL is it's projected to earn 6.32% every year. Now, let me ask you a question. If you've ever invested in the stock market or you have an IUL right now that's tied to the market, do you believe that you're going to make money in your stock market investments and have positive returns every year for the rest of your life without ever having a down year? No. You know how the market works. The market is volatile. You'll have years where you're making money and getting positive returns. You're going to have a few years with some losses. The IUL illustration never takes into account the losing years. Now, the agents out there selling IUL will tell you, hey, you have a floor of 0. You're never going to do worse than a 0% return. By the way, you still have to pay for the cost of the insurance, so it is possible to lose money in IUL. But even with them saying you have a floor of 0, the illustrations that are provided never show that. The illustrations show you making money every single year for the rest of your life. That's one reason they're unrealistic. You're not going to make 6.32% every single year of your life in the IUL. The other pushback that I get and hear from agents is, well, that's an average rate of return. Guess what? Average is meaningless. You have to look at your actual rate of return. And I've done plenty of videos about average versus actual. You can watch those videos. So average is a meaningless return. And what you need to know about your IUL is this 6.32% rate is not going to happen every year. And the zero floor is not shown in any year at any time in your IUL. They only show you making money every year. That is unrealistic. Let's take it one step further. In 15 years, putting in the $140,000 for 10 years and then no premium for the following 5 years, we're seeing here there's $2.29 million in cash value. However, when we put these numbers into a calculator, 6.32% on $140,000 for 10 years, 5 years of no funding, what you should have in the policy is $2.7 million. So let's take the $2,705,000 and minus the $2.29 million that's shown in the illustration. And my question is, what happened to $406,000? If you're really going to earn 6.32% and that's what's projected, you've lost $406,000 because that's not what's in the illustration. There's fees, increasing insurance cost, unrealistic returns. To net down to the $2.29 million, this policy really earned 4.75%, not 6.32%. And even that number, 4.75 in an IUL, still could be unrealistic. Why? Because that's assumed you made 4.7% every single year. But remember what I said earlier, it's market-based. There will be some of those 15 years that we walk through where you're going to hit that 0% floor. Chances are your policy is going to earn less overall because of those losing years. The properly structured high cash value illustration I've shared with you today has an internal rate of return of 5.11%. That 5.11% number, that's a tax-free number. And the great thing about whole life, as I mentioned earlier, it does not have surrender charges, increasing insurance costs, or unrealistic returns. It is not tied to the stock market. If surrender charges, increasing insurance costs, and unrealistic returns aren't enough problems to be aware of, consider other potential problems with IUL. Premium expense charges, administrative fees. These fees can eat up 2 to 3% or more of your cash value annually, significantly dragging down net returns. Cap rates are set by the insurance company, and the insurance company can change those cap rates. Participation rates are set by the insurance company, and those too can change. We buy life insurance to transfer the risk to an insurance company, but in most cases with IUL, that risk is shifted off the insurance company onto you, the policyholder. With IUL, you do not receive dividends. Whole life insurance we love because you receive dividends. If you want to take even a deeper dive, you can search what are problems with IUL insurance cap rates and participation rates. Here you'll see capped upside potential. You do not participate in market dividends, participation rate dilution, discretionary rate changes, in-force disparities. Many insurance carriers offer significantly more attractive cap rates to new clients, leaving existing policyholders with lower, less favorable rates that will hinder the growth. This is not an exhaustive list of all the problems of IUL, but it's a great breakdown of why IUL fails to deliver. On the other hand, whole life insurance has been around for nearly 200 years. It's a fully guaranteed permanent life insurance product. There are many benefits of high cash value whole life. I want to share with you here 4 unbeatable benefits of properly structured high cash value whole life insurance. Guarantees. This is a sleep well at night product. You never have to worry about losing money. Whole life insurance, when properly structured, only makes money. Access to cash. There are no surrender charges. You have access to 90 to 95% of your total cash value, even in the very first year. Tax-free use of the money. This money is not money that you have to report to the IRS. The IRS is not going to come knocking on your door like they would with your 401k or IRA, calculating the tax you owe them. We show you how to take money 100% tax-free from your whole life policy. And a permanent death benefit. The permanent death benefit is there regardless of market conditions. The IUL cash value we saw depleting. The death benefit in an IUL can also deplete. I've analyzed hundreds and hundreds of IULs. I've heard many horror stories when it comes to IULs. People funding policies for 20, 30, 40 years, and their death benefit goes away. Why? Because of those increasing insurance costs. Even when someone puts more money into their IUL, when the insurance company's asking them for more money for higher premium because those costs go up, even in those cases, I've seen death benefits expire, death benefits lapse because of those increasing insurance costs. With whole life, it's solvent. The death benefit will always be there. It's permanent. You don't have the increasing costs. You have peace of mind and you have security with whole life insurance. You can learn more about this in Steve Gibbs' Self-Banking Blueprint book, my book, Live Rich, Die Rich, Nelson Nash's Becoming Your Own Banker. And as always, we encourage you to look at your own numbers. If you have an IUL, I'm going to finish where I started. Let us do an analysis on your IUL. More than likely, you're not aware of the problems that I've mentioned today, but I've seen it over and over again. People come to me asking me to help them solve their problem. So look at your IUL illustration. And if you're considering an IUL, you definitely need to look at the illustration. Does it have surrender charges? Does it have increasing costs? Does it have unrealistic returns? We're happy to do an analysis for you. Look at your own numbers. See how properly structured high cash value whole life insurance will work for you in your portfolio. It's an asset class that gives you guarantees, liquidity, and tax-free use of money.